let me just move on. Yeah, my name is Festus. I work for Save the Elephants, and my background is biology of conservation. But I found GIS quite a handy tool just as soon as I started my career in the conservation industry. I'm here to present work for Save the Elephants. It's not solely my work, it's work from many of us at Save the Elephants. And at Save the Elephants, we strive to maintain the beauty and the ecological integrity of the areas where elephants like Laikipia County all the way to Marsabit. And within this landscape, on this map on the screen shows a mix of land ownership types. We have communal land to the north, private lands to the south, and these are mainly Laikipia, and some government-owned land that is in purple. And within this, we still find a mix of land use types. That's the hashed, the steeples, and this presents a mix. It's a matrix. I would call it, it's like a dice you throw on the ground. There are lots of mix of ownerships and land uses, and these present different challenges to the elephants. Laikipia Samburu landscape is home to about 8,000 elephants, and this landscape is shared with humans. One of the greatest challenges there is water deficiency. The landscape is shared with nomadic pastoralists, and most of the water points are seasonal. Working using GIS software, as the GIS software, we have been able to do, amongst other things, map the resources on the ground. This is a map of the water points from various sources, whether remote sensing, from ground mapping, and we are striving to come up with an entire complete scale of all the risk and the opportunities for the elephants. To the south of the landscape, that is towards Laikipia especially, it's a farming community, and this presents a different set of challenges to the elephants. And you can see at night, conflicts are quite rampant. And when these abound, in the morning, the farmers will wake up to something like this. A whole farm of cabbages has been destroyed overnight. This is just an example of what's happening up there. And it's quite a challenge for both the elephants and the humans to coexist. We are striving to map this risk and see how we can promote coexistence. When such incidences happen, often the culprit is the elephants. We get a lot of individual elephants getting speared. Some of them end up dying. Besides this, we get human life also being lost. So it's quite a challenging landscape for the elephants. And besides this one, the next challenge that we have, and this has been the biggest risk to the elephants until about a few years ago, is poaching. In the year 2006 and 8 towards 2009, things were calm. In 2010, and in line with the international trade, we observed an increase in the number of elephants killed by poachers. The killing by poachers is just to provide or supply to an insatiable market for raw ivory, for worked ivory. And at Save the Elephants, we have set out to map out the risk of poaching in the landscape. In the year 2002, Save the Elephants was approached by Kenya Wildlife Service and requested to assist in mapping the mortality of elephants in the north. We set out to do an individual body count verification of all the dead elephants that we come across in the landscape. And working with the communities on the ground, we established a participatory network whereby the herders were encouraged, and we built a trust with the herders. They would score the landscape from the top to the bottom there as they graze, and they would communicate every information they hear of a dead elephant somewhere. We set out to go on the ground and verify every individual carcass. The data sets. And over time, I just pick a database of where elephants die, and we have been able to do some detailed analysis. This map shows the causes of elephants that we have been recording on the ground. The red dots show it, and the orange dots, especially towards the south, near the farming communities, problem animal control cases. And we do have some that with Pike, we are able to work out the proportions of the causes of mortality within any landscape. And this metric has been published as it is now the gold standard. And with this one, we are able to do a Pike-based risk map. The map on your right shows that the causes of the elephants, the possibility, the likelihood of an elephant dying, let's say from poaching or illegal killing. And the red dots show that, the red patches show that most of the elephants in that particular area die from illegal killing. That is either conflict or poaching. The green areas, and here I note specifically 3 areas like Olpejeta, Leeward, they are the best. They are the best conserved. We have least elephant mortality due to illegal killing. With this information at hand, we seek to assess how do the elephants respond to the risk. So the elephants have specialized in GPS tracking. We put collars, GPS collars on elephants, various elephants in different herds roaming across the landscape. And the technology is very simple. Top of the GPS collar is an assemblage with a GPS on it. At the bottom where you can see my hand holding is a counterweight to make sure that the antenna and the other assemblage always faces up, and also it hosts the battery. And over time, we have amassed millions of data points. This screenshot on the left, this is just about 2.5 million hourly GPS fixes from the period 1998 to 2012. And I extracted the similar corresponding data points for poaching within that period. And here we intersected this and explored the changes in the risk. Between 2002 and 2008, that's the left panel, that's when poaching was a very low risk. 2010 and 2012 was a global crisis. You see the map changes into a dark color. The darker the color means the more the elephants that are dying of illegal killing. And we went ahead and analyzed the tracking data. We developed a method of looking at night versus day movements. And in the process of exploration, we found that in the risky areas, elephants move more at night than during the day. And we got this metric published in the Journal of Ecological Indicators, and it received quite a high global attention. It's the new metric, night-day speed ratio of elephants as an indicator of poaching levels. That is, when you monitor some elephant movement with GPS collars, and all of a sudden you realize they are moving more at night than during the day, you should identify that there's something they are fearing. They are changing their movement according to some risk. About the corridors, we'll go ahead and with all the data that we have accumulated. This, for example, is just a data set from 1988 to 2018. That's 20 years of tracking data points. And on this screen, we have about 5.5 million GPS data points. We look at individual elephant movements. It's not just the mass of black that you see. On the right-hand side, we see charismatic elephants moving all the way from the Marsabit to the top there. That's Marsabit National Park. And to the south, that's Mount Kenya. So we see individual elephants that have a home range extending more than 200 kilometers. And we monitor their movements. And with this kind of movements, we are able to extract the corridors. And how do we go about in extracting the corridors? Using tools in GIS, we narrowed down to some of the areas that are of interest. In this particular slide, I narrowed to the connectivity area between Buffalo Springs, which is on your left, and Shamba National Reserve. This is in Isiolo. And looking closer, you can see these two reserves are bisected by a highway. That line that is in green, red, yellow is actually the highway. What we do is to calculate the number of tracking tracks that are crossing that section of the highway, and we use that as a weighted measure to determine where we should actually put the corridor. And on this slide, you can see we identified 2 corridors, and we have gone further on the ground to pinpoint the coordinates and share them with the county council, the local government, so that they can follow up if at all they would like to put up and formalize a corridor there. It's up to them to make the decision. We provide the information. Looking at another section of the landscape, this is a place called Oldonyiro, another very critical and interesting one in the landscape. It's interesting because it's the main connectivity route between Laikipia to the south. As you can see, more subdivisions in Laikipia, to the vast open rangelands communal land in the north. This is a major crossing point for the elephants, a place called Oldonyiro. We have been able to map on the ground for all the individual settlements. Each of those dots is a boma or a house, and we overlaid them with the GPS tracks. The tracks in black are just the tracks for the older elephants, 1998 to 2013, and the ones in red are more recent ones. And you can see a slight shift, although I've not done the actual analysis on this slide. We can see that despite the slight shift, they are still the main connectivity routes that elephants respect. We were approached by consultants from KENHA to give ideas of where they could put the corridors on the upcoming LAPSSET corridor. Using the same approach, we took the sections, the road sections from KENHA, we overlaid on the data, we calculated the weighted matrix of where the elephants cross most. And on this map, you can see the proposed route for the LAPSSET corridor. And we have put some red markings where we have identified that this is a major corridor, and KENHA in their design, they should be able to possibly implement overpasses, underpasses, or whatever measure they want to put. But we have provided the information. A little taste of what we are doing in other places. Down in the Tsavo, there is the SGR, the standard gauge. Been monitoring. We were asked actually by Kenya Wildlife Service if we have any data for that area just before the SGR was constructed. It happened we didn't have much, but we set immediately on the ground to monitor what's happening there. And with the standard gauge railway coming up there, we saw lots of cutting off of the corridors. We have been able to map on the ground. We have a team on the ground there doing the work, and my colleague Michael Kosgei and Ben Okita, who some of you may know are the key persons in this work in the Tsavo. We monitor what's happening along the corridors. One of the challenges that we have been seeing is people settling right under the areas that have been provisioned for wildlife crossings in Tsavo. And using the GPS tracking data, we are able to analyze and say, where are the elephants crossing through? And we see the barriers. We go further ahead to map out the density of the settlements. This map shows the red patches, the higher the density of settlements corresponds with the density of the red mark. And these red areas are literally blocked out. They are blockaded. You may see on this slide, that section between Maungu to the south of Maungu, it's green. It's one of the areas, the few areas that elephants are able to cross through. And this is some of the work we are doing at Save the Elephants, monitoring not just the elephant behavior, the risk and how the infrastructure developments are affecting elephant movements. And with that, I'll say a goodbye and wish you all the best in your GIS day. Questions are most welcome.